Hello and welcome to the Rowover podcast. Our guest today is Ali Brown, the high performance coach at Leander. Ali, could you introduce yourself a bit for us?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me, Ben. Yeah, my name's Ali Brown, and I'm currently coaching at Leander. But as probably allude to, I've been around for a few years now doing various levels. But thanks for having me.
Yeah, and so we sort of wanted to talk about. So you started off as sort of schoolboy rowing and sort of did started head coaches of schools and things like that. What sort of got you into the sport and sort of took you to that point, do you think?
Oh, right. Well, look, I've been involved in the sport for a long time. I rowed myself at a little town, Bradford-on-Avon Rowing Club, and I was taught to row by my dad there. And everyone in my family, actually, I'm one of five. Everyone in my family has actually rowed at some level. Even my mum won her novices. I was destined to be in the sport because I think I was running around riverbanks in a nappy before long before I got in the boat. I started coxing and actually coxed the at Henley Regatta and in the qualifying rounds actually. And then I was dying to do it. And actually, that time I was going down the course, I actually had an inkling I could beat some of the people in the boat. So that got me really determined to do it. So so I was at Bradford-on-Avon, and I rowed there till I was 16 years old, and then I joined Leander Club, and I rowed as a junior at Leander, and then worked through juniors, under 23s, and seniors, and then I retired in 2005, and I knew I wanted to stay in the sport. And I became a director of rowing at Sir William Borlase, and I was there for a few years. Really awesome. I could bore you for hours about my time at Sir William Borlase.
Would that have been when they were doing all sorts of things and doing well in the Forley and things like that as well?
So yeah. So one of my big movements at Sir William Borlase was moving them out of Marlow Row Club, and Marlow Row was they were incredible. So it's not a negative at all. It was Marlow Rowing Club were accommodating Sir William Borlase, and there was set times Sir William Borlase could come down, but the club wasn't really big enough to accommodate it. And I knew that initially, if the growth of Sir William Borlase needed to have their own place to go, and we managed to get them in at Longridge, which is what they are currently, and the program really built. I think actually when I took over, there was, honestly, not an exaggeration, there could have been 10 people rowing when I took over.
Okay.
And a couple of years later, I think we had 9 national medals across. I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think in national schools we got 3 or 4, and then at Nat Champs there was a couple. Anyway, certainly the empire was growing, and then we qualified for the Forley. It was a really cool time, really cool time. We didn't have a boathouse. We got some caravans. Dave Curry, who now is very experienced coach, head of rowing at Shiplake, he was working with me, and we got some caravans, and we smashed all the insides out and built them, built blade racks and everything, and the rest is history. That was and actually the walkway now going down to the river, which if ever you've been there.
I used to row out there with RGS. We were all down there with GMS and Borlase at the same time.
Yeah, also awesome. That was the parents support group of Borlase, and lots of hard work laying those tracks, and it's really cool. I went down there recently actually, and it's brings back great memories. And then as amazing as that was, but not having a boathouse and being in the wet and cold and the flood, wouldn't be surprised to see that on my next job I wanted to coach somewhere with a boathouse. So I went to Bedford Modern, and that was a similar story, built program there. Started to get some 8s and some Champ 8 finals, and some success there. Just building on the ethos of trying to get more people doing the sport. We actually at Bedford Modern, we set up it wasn't catchy enough for me to have year 9 rowing, year 10 rowing. So we came up with fun slogans, and we did year 9 was Project Legend. and then every year we came up with and there was a Project Rapid, and then there's a Project Lightning. Don't ask me why, but the kids loved it and it was good fun, and they all had t-shirts. And then I went to Abingdon School, senior coach at Abingdon School, and now I'm at Leander. So there was about 14 years spread across that time, working with various levels. Some really great memories from coaching people on their first ever time in a boat, year 8, and just having the fun and not thinking about competition too much, to obviously now working with some very talented athletes, helping them achieve their ambitions, going to Olympics and stuff.
And do you think Leander was sort of always going to be a bit of an end goal for you, having rowed there in the past? Was that sort of a path you were following, or did that sort of just happen across what you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so. For that reason, that when I was a young lad, it did a lot for me, the club, both on the water and off the water. And for me, I always saw that as the pinnacle that I'd like to get to one day. But I didn't want to just jump there straight away. I wanted to do the levels. I wanted to have that, do the grassroots levels. But it's not just the rowing coaching for me. I am actually old enough to sort of. It was when emails were coming in and all this, and I actually, just spending my life on the river and stuff. There was a huge part of the sport that I wanted to learn, and I wanted to learn how to work inside a school and do the risk assessment stuff, and I wanted to learn how to. I had my own tutor group, and it was much more than rowing. It was how to manage a program and build that program, and at Sir William Borlase and Bedford Modern, how to generate income to boost the budget. And so it's much bigger than just rowing. It was being a part of the school and just trying to build something special, really.
And did you find that was easier with the private schools, so with Abingdon and things like that, or and at Leander, or was that something that came a bit easier with state schools?
Well, Leander's much more about the coaching. So I've got so I can be a high performance coach. My get up and go is about trying to make the athletes as good as they can possibly get to. At Leander, I also do the recruitment and stuff, and I have. We'll probably come on to it in a little while, but I do quite a lot of work with the younger guys and helping them choose the right university and on that gap year program as well. But for them, from the coaching part, no, I don't have to do all the sort of the building and the income stuff. The chief coaches, Matt Beachy and Ross Hunter, they kind of they drive that. So at Leander, I can just be a coach and be very passionate about supporting the athletes. But at Leander, it's very individual. It is trying to develop the individual to get to where they want to get to. I guess there is times where we become a team and we try and go as a team, but people join. The rowers get good, and then their schools get them good, their universities get them good, and then they come to Leander to try and do the last bit. Something that I'm very aware. There's many layers to it. By the time they go at Leander, then some fantastic coaches have put a lot of time and effort into them, and our job is to try and I don't know, help that process, see them through as they spend a bit more time in their day rowing, and we can work on their weaknesses almost. There's times in the day where if somebody, let's say the extreme is that you've got somebody who's absolutely enormous and they're really strong in the gym, they've got an amazing ergo, but their technique's not great. That's obviously the extreme. Well, that person might need just a little bit more technical time, just to work on small boat skills, etc. yeah, so then that person, the third session of the day, might be working on those things.
Yeah. And sort of go backtracking a little bit, I guess. Sort of in terms of, you said you sort of helped build up Borlase and at Bedford and that as well, and then moving on to Abingdon. What do you think was sort of more rewarding and where you could have sort of more influence? Was it sort of the sort of state schools where you could sort of help build up and sort of start really from that sort of grassroots position, or do you think it was somewhere like Abingdon where it sort of already had quite a well situated sort of club and it was had a bit of history in it as well?
Well, look, it's just for me, if it hasn't come across already, it's the love of rowing.
Yeah.
It's such an awesome sport that is really honest, and
Mm-hmm.
what you put into it is what you get out of it. So when you say when it's rewarding, I think just anybody trying hard and making steps on at
Mm-hmm.
various levels, I find that very rewarding. In terms of Leander, it's obviously okay. So it's a different end of the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
winning Henley and trying to get into the national team, but it's still the
Yeah.
same stuff. It's still the
Mm-hmm.
same stuff. So it was really, really good fun. It is
Mm-hmm.
so much fun to have that J15 crew, J14 crew, and you know they haven't raced very much, but they're at the national schools and you know that's still that's still a really cool thing. Or like the first eight, can they make the Champ 8 final and you miss out the year before and you're gutted and
Mm-hmm.
you're with the young kids and they go, no, we're going to definitely do it next year. And they train as their sixth form group, and then next year they do make the Champ 8 final and and win some medals. And yeah, so that is really fun. That's a
Mm-hmm.
huge that was a huge part of my introduction to the sport, and as a coach, that for me that was very rewarding to develop that team and not and try and make rowing more a part of the school. So
Mm-hmm.
the headmaster that's never been to the river,
Yeah.
well, let's get him down there, get him in a launch, and other members of the sports department, etc. Try
Mm-hmm.
and make the sport stand out a bit more than the last bit in the assembly. Or by the way, some kids won in the boat at the weekend.
Yeah.
I tried to bring it into the sport,
Mm-hmm.
but what rewarding? Yeah, no, I do like the development of athletes and people. You have a one-on-one chat with them and say, these are my ambitions, and then working with them to, I don't know, whether it's getting their erg down or sculling a bit better and
Mm-hmm.
being invited to like the final trials. It. What do I find more rewarding? I don't know. I just enjoy the sport still.
Yeah.
I'll coach anybody with
Mm-hmm.
enthusiasm.
And do you think you sort of approach them differently? So you sort of mentioned earlier you had I can't remember what it was you said, but you sort of all the different year groups sort of had their different names, and you sort of had that sort of
Yeah.
fun aspect to it. Do you think that approach can be applied to places like Leander, where it's focused far more on that sort of top end, or do you think it sort of needs to be a bit more serious around that top end to get where you want to be?
Um, no, I'm not totally sure. We try and make it as fun as possible, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe with the gap year program, you can,
Yeah.
you could probably make that as fun as possible. But like we said, Leander's quite individual. It's
Mm-hmm.
about each person trying to trialing as an individual. So I'm not totally sure that having fun names for groups would work there.
Yeah.
But and for me, it was a way of making people fall in love with the sport. And I
Mm-hmm.
guess if they're at the point of they've already got that hook, it was to get
Yeah.
people. So that's a good way of putting
Mm-hmm.
it. To get people hooked, we tried to create fun. But I think that by the time they get to that point, they're already quite
Yeah.
addicted to the sport.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I guess sort of looking a bit forwards now. So you've done some stuff with you've worked with the under 23 GB team and that sort of thing. So what's your experience been sort of in that upper level, sort of past Leander and sort of into the team?
Yeah, sort of. That's where I'm sort of at the moment. Actually, the it's international coaching is it's really exciting. It takes quite a lot of Each year I do it, I learn something else.
Mm-hmm.
It's the things that people don't really tell you about. Is two semi-finals free through from
Mm-hmm.
each semi-final. For me, that's the race every year we train for now
Yeah.
at the moment. In sculling, the last few years, the semi-finals have been pretty tight, and
Mm-hmm.
you can be on the wrong side of it, the wrong side of it. Um, I mean, domestically in this country, go to Met and Marlow, etc. Some of our leading crews, they could be a few lengths ahead, not,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, and actually, it's only when we get on the international scene and there's 6 boats still level after 1,200 meters, and
Yeah.
that's a new experience for us. And sometimes that can be that can put a new experience into it, and we
Mm-hmm.
tend to kind of get those pressure situations once or twice a year. So
Yeah.
the international scene, that's something that I'm really enjoying learning about that,
Mm-hmm.
and how to read the heats, and who goes through to a repechage, or who goes to the semi-final, and who makes the final. I find that fascinating, and I guess that's the sport. That's the side of the sport which I'm kind of embracing now.
Yeah.
Uh, and you only have a few times a year where you can look at that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And you sort of mentioned that there's, I guess, two different, almost different styles of racing and competition. Do you think there's room in the rowing calendar for more different types of racing? So you mentioned earlier, just before we started the call, that back when you were racing, a lot of the races were pretty much all on sort of rivers, and they all had curves and things like that. And now
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
lot of racing down at Dorney where it's just sort of that straight 2K track.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, actually, funny enough, my first ever race was against Matt Beachy, who's the chief coach of Leander. It was at Stratford-on-Avon Regatta, 500 meters.
Mm-hmm.
Beachy, Beachy actually lost. I still have Beachy won. Sorry, I haven't forgiven him for that one yet. But yeah, no. So that was my upbringing. That was my
Mm-hmm.
upbringing. That every race was somewhere different. We used to have these bank holiday weekends, Gloucester, Bristol, Ross, and you used to have, there's. I know that was just in the region I was rowing, but we didn't ever race in a straight line in multi-lane. That was only for the national schools, or that was only for the national championships.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the racing was, you might have a stagger, and you race around a corner under a bridge. And I know that still does go ahead. I know that, but quite a lot of races are at Dorney at the moment. And I would imagine if you're a club rower, not just a club rower, but somebody who that isn't their life and soul. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
qualifying for Henley might be the ambition rather than winning Henley. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that I wonder whether going to Dorney and racing over 2K all the time is must be quite intimidating if you're not totally tip top fit. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
2K is hard, and then sometimes you've got 2 or 3 races in one day. So it's not. When I was a kid, there was quite a lot of competition in the elite categories, and I don't actually know whether that's still ahead now, but I just do know that that was a really fun chapter in
Mm-hmm.
uh, when I was a kid, racing more on different sorts of courses and traveling to little towns.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a regatta's come to town, and it was carnage, but it was pretty good fun.
Were they sort of side by side, or was that sort of more head based racing?
No, there was side by side.
Mhm.
Usually one on one, really.
Yeah, and sort of, I guess the only time you really see that now is either A, sort of the boat race, or B, at Henley. And do you think that's something that you miss and would like to see sort of be brought back?
Yeah, I mean, Marlow Regatta still have got their regatta
Hmm.
side by side, and I think Reading do. And apologies if I've forgotten any others, but yeah, no, there's still definitely regattas out there of that. My dad still races now in
Hmm.
veteran, and he still goes away to these races. But I wonder whether there's still open eights, and
Hmm.
and the elite categories. I wonder whether that still is as strong as it was back in the day. I genuinely don't know, but that's an area of the sport I think would be really fun to have more
Hmm.
multi-lane races where it's round a bend and somebody
Yeah.
starting up. Like I said, that's not necessarily the top level, because
Hmm.
train as hard as you did, and when your Henley medals, I think you need to be probably practicing.
Carrying on from that, I guess my question to you is sort of as someone with a bit of influence at one of the top level clubs, do you think it would be worth like getting your top level club to compete at those events and sort of try and bring them back onto the calendar as sort of a bit of a bigger event? Or do you think it's more key to stick to those sort of 6-lane 2K races to mimic the like international style racing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be too popular if we turned up and and tried to. Would be called pot hunters, I guess. I don't know how we would support it, but definitely, maybe. I know an area we used to do it is when the season was over, people used to just put together fun boats and scratch boats, or maybe go back and row for their old clubs, and a bit like that. Maybe there's a way of supporting it. I think Maidenhead still have a side-by-side regatta, which is they race, and I think that's in a good time of year where people race in the summer because they're not as serious. Yeah, I think that's it. But I'm not totally sure you're going to get Brooks First 8 going down or Leander, but it'd be fun if we could. It'd be really fun.
Do you think that's something that you could see happening in the future if sort of the right sort of steps were taken to make that happen?
Hopefully. I mean, it'd be. I mean, look, you've brought in. There's a new chapter, isn't there? Like beach players have come in, and everyone's been telling me how much fun it is. It's really, and that's definitely. It's I could see it working. We just have to take people to take a punt on it, really.
Yeah.
Bedford Regatta is another one. Bedford Regatta is a great regatta. We used to take loads of kids there. So many races in one day, 6 or 7 races in the day.
And I remember doing Thames Valley Park Regatta as well. That was a local one as well. All those sort of races.
I'm sure I've not mentioned some people, and I'm going to get told off. But there is quite a few out there. It's just there are a lot for beginners and juniors. It'd be nice to have more seniors doing it.
And another place where you get that sort of style of racing is just before the boat race, and you sort of have the fixtures. And I've sort of mentioned that before on the podcast. Do you think races like that could be opened up to more people, or do you think it's important that it's sort of literally just clubs racing against Oxford and Cambridge?
Oh, I mean, that's a whole new side of the sport coming in, actually, the fixtures and stuff. I think they're really fun.
Yeah.
I think that really just backs up my point, how much fun the sport can be. It's getting that's kind of a mini season inside of the season now, isn't it? The boat race fixtures always culminating in the boat race itself, and because so and so's raced one crew and another crew's raced another crew, you start to put in the picture of who you think might win. And you get a little bit of a form book, and I think it brings more attention to it. So I think that the boat race organisers have really nailed that. That's getting really exciting. And the answer to your question is, can more people do it? Well, I think they are, actually, because I think more people are saying, right, do you want a fixture? There seems to be a series going around, and I see schoolboy 8s like St. Paul's and Wimbledon, etc., going down and having fixtures with Oxford, Cambridge lightweights, etc. And yeah, it's quite fun, actually. There's loads of races going down there in Putney, side by side races, and no, I'm all for that. I reckon. I think we should definitely try and keep the sport as fresh as we can, doing new things.
And you did briefly mention the beach sprints as well. Is that something that you've paid much attention to at Leander? Obviously, it's a very inland club. Is that something, obviously, it's looking to be in the Olympics at LA. Do you think you've got athletes that you're sort of pushing towards that area of the sport, or is that something?
I wouldn't say pushing towards, no, but people have come down to the club and they've explained the selection, or they've explained the new format, and they've opened it up to people to go and have a go, and we're pretty chilled about that. If it's in a time that they can fit it in the summer or something like that. No, we're very supportive, and it's really up and coming. Like I said, from what I've seen of it, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
So
And
it's,
that I spotted a few months ago, there's actually a beach sprints league over in the US where they've got a few scullers, obviously down the coast. And it's a league system, and they do sort of 30 odd races through the year. And I think there's a decent cash prize as well for sort of the winner of the league and a few of the runners up. Do you think that league system is something that could be brought over to inland rowing?
yeah, I see no reason why not. I think yeah, it's just I mean I love all these ideas. I genuinely do. There's somebody who, and I've said it quite a few times, but loves the sport. I think there's some fantastic initiatives to make the sport less predictable.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea of a league table. Um, I like, do you remember Top Gear? Well,
Yeah,
they're still going, but I still like the lap chart.
the star in the reasonably priced car.
Yeah, yeah, and I still think that's quite cool when you can beat somebody and put your name ahead of them,
Mm-hmm.
and actually, I was watching the Head of the Charles when the guys were racing out there,
Mm-hmm.
and that was quite. It was. I just reminded me of that really because you obviously get the next one, and where are they going to come in? Dum,
Yeah.
or actually a bit lower, but I definitely think there's scope to bring that excitement to
Mm-hmm.
races. You don't find out how you get on, you know,
Yeah.
until you've gone through a certain marker and stuff like that. Which I think
Well,
that's started to happen now. I think
mm-hmm.
in the 8 head and stuff, you get a halfway marker. But I quite
Mm-hmm.
like it. I think it's quite a fun, um, more for the viewers as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that is something that rowing can suffer from in terms of the viewership, like with especially races like Head of the River, where it's 16 minutes. And if you're sort of standing on Hammersmith Bridge, you'll get a couple minutes worth of seeing whoever you want to see actually go by. Um, what do you think could be done to sort of make rowing, I guess, more interesting to watch?
Well, I think that you've just hit the nail on the head there because back in the day, we would leave to go
Mm-hmm.
home before we've got the results. And Boston trials, is so good now that the results are out really quick. But there was
Mm-hmm.
times when we were driven all the way back from Boston back into Henley before we got the results.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that some races, you even went to bed having not known how you got on, and you might get the results on a Monday morning. And that for somebody watching, I mean, not knowing results is pretty
Mm.
key to, enjoying viewing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Somebody let you watch a football game and didn't tell you the score. You want to know what's happening, don't you? So I think that the events now are doing that better than ever now. There's
Mm-hmm.
live times and you can actually see what's going on. Sculler's Head and stuff like that. I mean, the results were out immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely a side of the sport which is moving with the times, and it definitely makes it more exciting. It does
Mm-hmm.
make it.
And I guess on that topic as well, I'm sure you've seen things like Drive to Survive on Netflix, where they sort of go in and they'll watch through all the clubs through the year. Do you think if someone were to say, "Hey, I want to do a Drive to Survive for rowing," do you think that's something that would be invited into the sport?
Oh yeah, it'd be awesome. I think it'd be good. I mean, probably it'll be watched by rowers.
Yeah.
um, yeah, don't, yeah. Yeah, it'd be exciting. And look, anything I've seen quite a lot of those documentaries, and it gets you hooked.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the Wrexham one, obviously because they were superstars, bought the club, but
Mm-hmm.
if you put a spotlight on something, it makes people intrigued to find out what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and you can humanize it and put a story behind it, and it builds to watch a race and next round, and or wonder whether that person's going to make the crew, and
Mm-hmm.
they did make the crew. The Drive to Survive documentaries are pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got really expensive fast cars. I guess we've got
Yeah.
fast boats. No, yeah, to answer your question, it could be good.
I think sort of I've sort of thought about this and discussed it with a few people on here before as well. And I think one of the key issues with that potentially is a lot of clubs are very secretive with what they want people to see. And sort of I guess a big part of rowing is that everyone's got their own training program and things like that. And outside of that, there's not really much going on, I guess. Do you think that's something that it would sort of have to be embraced, I guess, to allow people to come in and sort of see your program and see what's going on behind closed doors?
Yeah, I think they'd realize it's all the same stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't think people's programs vary too much. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard ergs,
Yeah, yeah,
getting up early, cracking the ice on the river, and yeah, I think yeah, okay, there'll be a few secrets, but they're not big secrets really.
mm-hmm.
Everyone's doing the same sort of stuff. Everyone's using the same sort of boats,
Mm-hmm.
same blade lengths, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
not really as mysterious as people make out.
Oh,
If the rower's better, they usually win.
yeah, yeah, I'd have to agree there. So we'll wrap up with just if you could sort of change one thing about the sport, what do you think that would be?
I did. I guess the perception that it's not a sport for all.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely is a sport for all. Everyone, it's open to everybody, and I think that that would be what I could change. But my plea to anyone getting into the sport was, don't just try it once, don't just try it twice, because
Mm-hmm.
actually the fun will really come into it when you've done it for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what I used to say to the people who are trying rowing when I was teaching them right at the beginning was, just until you've all rowed in time,
Mm-hmm.
until you've actually had that moment where the boat was going quite fast, or you've got over the bit where ergos are just horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know they always are, but actually, stick at it for a little bit more, because
Mm-hmm.
uh, I've started to think of rowing a little bit more, a bit like golf.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and you get these golfers which are they're addicted to getting that sweet spot. They just want to get that perfect drive where the ball goes ting and it
Yeah.
lands on the green. I mean, that's why they do it. And I think that in rowing, it's just really addictive to have that moment where
Mm-hmm.
the water's nice,
Yeah.
everyone's in time, you're rowing with your friends, and it's about the journey to the race rather than just the race. And
Mm-hmm.
you're in a crew, you're all totally bought into it. The boat is flying, and you're like, oh, I love this sport, and that's
Yeah.
whatever, and that's it really. That's why we do it. So you've got to have fun, enjoy the journey, and that's about it really.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much for coming on and having a chat. Hopefully your sort of cruise will do well for the rest of the season and the rest of the year, even if there's no races coming up anytime
Yeah,
soon.
there's not a lot of water in the river at the moment.
Yeah. But hopefully you'll do well and hopefully you'll have a good rest of the season.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate your time, and yeah, I'll see you all soon.
Cheers.